Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Well, Greg, we just finished off the PM edition, and a bunch of PACA violations dropped. And those are normally, a lot of people want to read about those, of course, in financial news especially. But one that really caught my eye is previewing some coverage that we're going to have from Produce Blueprints magazine. What's coming up in Produce Blueprints in January and February?
Right. We had a PACA item on H. Brooks, and I suspect we'll see a lot more of these because as we've covered some of their problems, the financial problems with this, that longtime Minnesota wholesaler that was bought and then had all sorts of problems. In our January, February issue of Blueprints magazine, which you should get in about a month, we have a story, a case study of H. Brooks, and we look at the problems they went through, some of the specifics, how it was reported within Blue Book's credit, a lot of the signs that were showing that Blue Book members would have seen. And it's kind of an explanation on this is what it looks like in your Blue Book membership when a company is starting to have some problems. And we go through that. Bill Zentner is our credit VP, and he did a great job explaining how it came about and what it looked like. And we'll break that down in a series of stories for the website too, which we'll be talking about, but that won't come until January. So you'll have to hold on and wait to see it.
We've been watching, as you mentioned, H. Brooks and J&J Distributing for a while now, especially since this summer when some lawsuits have been filed, some messy articles in local media. And the latest I've heard is that the group that acquired the company is missing in action. So any potential bankruptcy filings may be, we don't know if that is ever going to happen because nobody can be found. So really interesting, though devastating news for all of the employees, of course, that worked there, and two venerated names in the produce industry. To see it go down like this, it has been really troubling to watch. So watch for that coverage in Produce Blueprints magazine coming up in January and February in that edition. On some more interesting financial news for the produce industry, you had another really fascinating talk with Mike Hsu from GrubMarket. And I can remember specifically, and it was only a couple of years ago when we first started at Blue Book, I said, here's another acquisition. Who is this GrubMarket company and what are they doing? Turns out there's been more than 50 acquisitions by the company and a few more coming.
Right. It's, we moved from the disaster merger and acquisition in Minnesota to a fairly successful company that's been acquiring companies like crazy. GrubMarket is such an interesting company because they do so many different things. The thing that they're most known for really is their proprietary technology that helps wholesalers really come into a digital age and have a lot more digital and technology in all their business dealings. And they raise all this money and they acquire these wholesalers a lot of times, and they're taking their technology into these companies. And Mike says the way that they are kind of learning the produce industry is by acquiring these successful companies and letting them use their software, and it seems like not really doing a whole lot of alteration on their business except for these things. And Mike told me, I talked to him this week, he told me that they're acquiring companies at an incredible rate. They have 3 to 4 that they've acquired very recently that they haven't even announced yet. And he said it very likely will be announced before the end of the year. So that's only 2 weeks before the end of the year that they're going to announce 3 to 4 more acquisitions. They're really moving incredibly fast. And we had a story this week. They raised another 200 million and have a valuation of 1.2 billion. And he told me he expects all the companies in their umbrella to pass 1 billion in revenue by the end of next year sometime. So we're talking about a massive company here.
And the companies that they're buying too, it's not, down on their luck, little companies they're scooping up, and it's venerated companies in the produce industries, big companies, Blue Book trading members, companies that have a rich history in the produce industry. So to have them, it's like they're almost just absorbing into their ecosystem. I don't know. It's like the Borg. Resistance is futile, I guess. Just a little bit.
Another thing he told me that's going to be something to keep an eye on is with all this money that they're raising, they have the ability to buy bigger companies now. And he said, be on the lookout for some acquisitions of companies that are as big as 200 million a year in revenue. So that would be a step up from more of the mid-sized companies that they've been acquiring. And they've been acquiring companies adjacent to produce, transportation companies, like a farm tech.
Yeah, I remember that one too. It was like farm technology. We're like, wow, it's not just wholesalers, it's and importers, major importers. And then the transportation and logistics one was another piece of the puzzle. It's like they're just sucking in all these different areas of the produce industry to absorb all of this knowledge to optimize what they're building software wise. It's really fascinating to watch. On the other side of acquisitions, we saw, speaking of huge companies, it's hard to get bigger than Taylor Farms. They picked up another really big player in the fresh cut and salad business.
Right. They acquired access to the Eat Smart line from Curation Foods. The release doesn't go into a whole lot of detail. They picked up 2 additional processing facilities, one in Ohio, one in California. They don't say specifically what they're going to do with the Eat Smart brand, but since they acquired this brand and it's pretty well known, I think at least in the short term, we'll see Eat Smart brand still be out there. There aren't many smarter companies in the industry than Taylor Farms, and they have an enormous customer base, both in food service and retail. So it's more of these. I would expect this one to be more on the positive acquisition side than the Minnesota example.
And another piece of news that I think is really interesting, though it's kind of like under the radar, the way that you read the news releases, we had 2 major retailers announce customer fulfillment centers, plans to build those. Ocado and Kroger are looking at North Carolina locations to open in, I can't remember whether it was 2024, I think. That's so far out. But Walmart is also looking for one in Salt Lake City in Utah. And they made it clear to point out that it is not a distribution center. Recently, they have announced a couple of really high-tech distribution centers. This one is a customer fulfillment center that is for online orders to kind of relieve some of the pressure on their DCs. And for me, it signals that both of these retailers are looking at Amazon and looking at competing with Amazon and trying to optimize the way that they are doing their online order fulfillment rather than trying to pick out of store. They're going directly from a DC. And so I thought that was really fascinating because we've talked many, many times about the return on investment for having a DC and fulfilling orders into the store and then picking from store versus having a dark store or a centralized customer fulfillment center. This is one of those that it's a customer fulfillment center rather than picking orders out of store. So those are just, I don't know, 2 key things that I thought that look at this, Walmart and Kroger are really going after Amazon on this one.
And they're investing more heavily into automation. And yes. I think it's evidence that they don't expect the labor problem to get better anytime soon. And so they're making serious investments.
I don't think any business right now is expecting the labor issue to get any better anytime soon because we're seeing so much investment in automation. We also had a news release about autonomous delivery vehicles. And I think one of the shows that a lot of us in the produce industry may not pay too much attention to, what is it, the electronics show, the big one where they unveil all these different vehicles. I can remember a few years ago, the first Neuro vehicle. That's the one that works with Kroger and Walmart and a couple of other places. They showed off the first version of that at a trade show, probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I was like, whatever. And now those are on the road, and now we're seeing even more of them. And now we're seeing autonomous semi trucks. I mean, the future is happening, it's coming, and the labor situation is only pushing it even farther ahead than it would have been.
It certainly seems more realistic than some of the drone stuff that we're getting. I mean, trucks on roads there's already the infrastructure. I don't think we're ready for Back to the Future's 2015 yet with all these flying vehicles.
Yeah, you know what? I went to the Plaza Lighting in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago when we were there for Thanksgiving, and there were a lot of drones up in the air covering the crowds and everything like that. And that is actually the most obvious version of drones I've seen in a while. I don't think they're going to be delivering your groceries anytime soon, though we have seen a couple of pilots, especially with Walmart. That's more like prescriptions and lightweight stuff. It's not like you're going to see someone delivering rutabagas by a drone.
Yeah, 10-pound bag of potatoes. I'm not seeing that.
I don't see the return on investment. You want to talk about the cost of doing business, of delivering potatoes via drone. I just don't see it there. How heavy duty is your drone? Exactly. Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter twice a day, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up. No Christmas sweater. I got my cat on mine.
That's not bad.
Grumpy George.